Welcome to the Stellar Cycles Pod, a show dedicated to showing each woman her intrinsic power to guide her life, her cycle, her relationships, and her dreams. We cover feminine energy, reproductive health, and all things related to being a potent and magical being that is woman. I'm your host, Alina, and today our topic is how to get the relationship that you want, not the situationship you're in. Now that it's cuffing season, the Starlings have been asking for an episode that covers relationships, especially of the romantic type, and how to work best with your feminine energy to achieve what you believe is your goal relationship, partnership, or marriage. I'm really excited to get into this topic with you guys because implementing these tips was the way I got my dream husband, and some of my other married or seriously committed girlfriends can also attest to this. While this might not work all across the board for everyone in every relationship, please keep in mind that I'm coming from a heterosexual standpoint as is concerned between a man and a woman, so if it doesn't apply, let it fly. First, I've got some updates for you guys. I have been having the worst ear infection ever. I'm about a month into it now. A month later, 6 urgent care visits where they just are not doing what they need to be doing about it. Every time I go in to check on it, they're just like, yep, your ear canal is blocked. We can't see it. And they try to flush it out. They can't flush it out. And they send me off with a bill and all the things that are not actually helping. And so they finally went ahead and put me on these crazy steroids and antibiotics, which you guys know I'm not a fan of. I have been much more into the holistic way of doing things, but at this point, if the infection is so bad and they've let it go this long without any sort of resolution, I just don't want it getting any worse. But since I started the meds, my pain has just been off the charts. Insane. I drove myself to urgent care yesterday, crying, screaming in the car. It was that bad. It was right up there with the worst period cramps from hell that I've ever had. So it's my first ear infection, so my heart goes out to anybody who either, has had one or goes through them constantly. It's just really not fun. It's a type of pain that is just indescribable. But now I'm just trying to manage the pain with Tylenol and things like that. It doesn't really work. I'm just really hoping that the antibiotics and steroids take effect soon and get this infection out of my body. We did take some swabs so we can tell exactly what kind of bacteria or virus is causing it. But yeah, very not fun. It's really hard to focus on things in life when you're dealing with a lot of pain. On the bright side, there's been a lot of concerts and shows going on. My husband finally convinced me to go to a music festival for the first time in our 4 years of knowing each other. Now, granted, much of our relationship started and developed through COVID, so there just wasn't many shows or concerts going on. Now there are, and I think the vibe is when we go to a show and we're having so much fun, and then we're like, let's go to this next one and this next one. So it's not like we pre-plan all of them for fall. It's just very spontaneous, in the moment sort of planning, which I can work with it. It's been a lot of fun. All of these plans and concerts and shows have been making fall very exciting. We have a trip planned to Portland coming up in November, but before that, we're going to have some visitors. I believe my brothers are going to come to visit. Sam's sister is coming to visit from Michigan, and she'll be staying with us for a little bit, and everything has just been going pretty good with the puppy. Nova has been kind of testing my patience a little bit, but such as expected. It could be a lot worse, so I am very grateful for these moments with her while she's still a baby. She needs me a lot more now than she's going to need me when she's older, and that is beautiful in and of itself. And she's laying right next to me right now as I'm recording this podcast, just kind of, opening her eyes, giving me the side eye every now and then. This girl has got an attitude, that's for sure. Currently, I'm still working on getting all of my name change stuff done after getting married. Honestly, it's kind of like the most daunting part of getting married is you have to go and change your social security name and get a new passport, get a new driver's license. So it's kind of rough to time that if you have trips out of the country and things like that. So I don't know when I'm going to get all of that finalized, but my goal is to get all of that done by the end of this year. I chose to change my name because I love my husband's last name, but if you can avoid it, don't change it. It's a lot of extra work. And I think there's definitely different mindsets around having to take your husband's name now. I took it because I really like it, and Alina Souza has kind of a good ring to it. Let's get into our conversation today, which again is in honor of cuffing season. Some people might be wondering, why is it cuffing season? Yeah, obviously it's fall time. People want to get into relationships because they don't want to go through the holidays alone and this, that, and the other. But there's really more reasons for why when the sun comes into a certain position in the sky and is transiting the constellation of Libra, why people become more inclined to seek out relationships. Libra is the sign of partnerships, love, beauty, marriage. So it does make sense why people are seeking out relationships. They want those warm and fuzzy feelings. They want just somebody to love on. I just kind of want to give a background of me and my understanding of relationships and marriage and things like that. So I grew up in a community where everyone mostly looked forward to marriage, both guys and girls. You guys know I'm Ukrainian. I was raised in the States from the age of 7, but we've always had really strong ties to the Slavic community. And the Slavic community encompasses people from Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Moldova, Bulgaria, Latvia, all of these countries that are kind of close to Russia and were part of the Soviet Union in the past. If you have the Slavic community and on top of that you add on the Christian community, everyone is pretty much prepared for marriage from a young age. Girls were basically prepped their entire lives to be a wife. Often happened quite early too. Like when I was in high school, a lot of my cousins and girlfriends were getting married like 17, 18 years old, and nobody looked at them funny because that was just what people did. And when young people in my community chose to get married, they had the support of the community. It was a big celebration. Everyone was looking forward to it. So there was really no undertone of, oh, marriage is this scary thing that we want to avoid. For me growing up, it was something I was very much looking forward to. When I moved to California and was living on my own, it was kind of interesting to see how repellent marriage or the idea of marriage was to most people. Like, talking about marriage would scare men off. I got to the point where it's like, you don't bring this up on a date because who knows, he might not want to talk to you afterwards, which is such a twisted way for my brain to try to understand this, coming from a community that the goal is marriage, and that's the big thing that happens in your youth, and it's a celebration, and it's amazing. So I went through my own rough times of terrible dates, lazy dudes with zero desire of pursuit, zero prospect for their futures, had no inclination to really go after a woman or anything like that. Like, these guys were just expecting everything to happen to them. And, sometimes they didn't even have a car. I'm so ashamed to admit it, and that's very feminine energy. I noticed that when I moved away from my community, there was all of these guys that just wanted to be taken care of by a woman, which is so backwards. And they were very much living in their feminine energy and causing all the females and all the women around them to really step into their masculine energy. So I knew something had to change within me and my choices if I was going to have the man, the relationship, and the marriage I've always envisioned ever since I was very little. I just want to touch on something real quick. People love to be all like, oh, I don't play games, but they also fail to realize everything in life is a game. And more so than anything, people are always looking for ways to have power over others and get their way. It's just human nature. And if you want to win, you have to know the rules. So keep listening for the points that really changed my mindset in dating and brought Sam, my husband, into my life. We'll be using the word goddess a lot, and that can mean anything that you want it to mean. It's just the girl that you're striving to be, the it girl, the dream girl that you know is part of your higher self. So let's just get into these principles. So first things first, anything that a person chases in life runs away. Of course, a chase can be really fun. It can be very exhilarating. But also, let's remember, fear is the overpowering energy in a chase. So if an animal is being hunted and it's being chased, there's fear at the bottom of it. The thing that's chasing it is scared that it'll get away, and the thing that's being chased is scared that it's going to get caught. So already anything in a chase is out of fear, and it's out of desperate energy. We don't want to chase, we want to attract. Another point is the women who have men climbing the walls for them aren't always exceptional. Often they're just the girl that doesn't appear to care too much. It's not always this crazy hot beauty queen that has men stumbling over themselves to open a door for her or this or that or the other. Actually, a lot of the times the prettiest girls hardly even get the attention that a lot of you guys think that they get. And they don't get hit on that much. And a lot of the times it's just the girl who just simply doesn't seem to care a lot, just has a very carefree energy. Another thing we got to keep in mind is that all of this, I said it was a game, but it's also a mental challenge. A man is attracted to a woman based on the mental challenge that she presents him. And what is this mental challenge? Well, a woman is perceived as offering a mental challenge to the degree that a man doesn't feel he has 100% hold on her. He might feel that he has some hold on her, but once he feels that he has her in his hand 100%, that's where the fun and the exhilaration kind of ends. And another thing that's really interesting is sometimes a man deliberately won't call you or text you just to see how you'll take it. Yeah, so while you're sitting there overanalyzing, like, oh, why isn't he texting me? Why isn't he calling me? A lot of the times, yeah, they're busy, but most of the time, it's just to see if you can handle them not talking to you for a little bit, or if you have your own life that excites you and that keeps you busy, so you're not just sitting by the phone waiting for him to call or waiting for him to text you. So very interesting point is that a lot of the times they do this to test you. And we'll definitely get into more of why men and women challenge and test each other and why this is a very normal part of our biology, our reproduction, and just science, how things work. Now, I do talk quite a big game about being a woman that's taken care of by her man, being provided for. But if you launch into a relationship or into getting to know a guy with dependent energy, so if you start out depending, if you start out needing to be babied, that will turn him off. But if you are something that he can't have, it becomes more of a challenge for him to get it. So I think in the beginning, it's a very good strategy to stand your ground and don't allow anybody to push you around and don't require so much from him to show that he's a provider from jump. He will come around to that idea when he notices that you're not putting all of your dependency on him. It is your attitude about yourself that a man will adopt. So, for example, act like a prize and you'll turn him into a believer. But if you're constantly self-deprecating, if you are always pointing out your flaws, guess what? That's all he's going to be able to focus on. And this happens with other people too. So when people are complimenting you, I know as women, we're always like, oh, I know, but like this doesn't fit. And I just feel a little big today and this and that. No, like once someone has complimented you and you try to talk them out of it, you are literally making them rethink whether that compliment was worth it. And especially so with a man. If you don't point out certain flaws about yourself, truth is, he's not even going to notice. Most of the time, the guy is complimenting you because he truly notices something beautiful about you, or he likes your outfit, or he appreciates the time that you put into looking nice for your date. But the moment that you start putting yourself down or talking him out of the compliment, that's the attitude that he's going to adopt about you. Then he's going to notice those flaws, and he's going to wonder, what other flaws does she have? Now, the biggest variable between a goddess and a woman who is too nice is fear. So the goddess shows that she's not afraid to be without him. A lot of girls, when they get into dating a certain guy or even just talking to him, they, of course, fall in love with potential. That's just something we all do. And then she starts picturing her life as a life with him and might act out of fear that, hey, if this doesn't work out, I'm not going to be good, I'm not going to be solid. And the man can sense that fear. Remember, fear is a desperate energy. So we never want to be operating out of fear. We just want to keep things open, light, and easy. And if the choice is between your dignity and having a relationship, the goddess will always prioritize her dignity above all else. Do not ever do anything that's going to cost you your dignity, because that's kind of all you have in this world. If you strip away all of your belongings, even your reputation, your family, your friends, dignity is the one thing that you can walk away with. And never, ever, ever drop your dignity. Whatever that personal definition of dignity is to you, never drop that for a relationship. Another good principle is when a woman doesn't give in easily and doesn't appear docile or submissive, it becomes more stimulating to obtain her. So remember, submission is very, very good later down the road when the man has proven himself as a strong provider, as someone you can trust, and as a man with a good heart. But until then, you are not going to win him over by playing the submissive role or being extremely docile, extremely agreeable. That makes them lose their interest so fast. So don't give in easily. Make it more fun for them too. for everybody, being right on the verge of getting something that you want generates a desire that needs to be satisfied. Now, moving into last minute territory, we all know how much it sucks to only be invited to last minute things. You kind of feel like an afterthought. You feel like, oh, did they already ask 3 other people and they turned them down and now they're going to ask me? But so many of us just jump for those last minute plans, even though we know that the person did not put in any time or effort into considering us. And a man knows which woman will give in to last minute requests. They can usually tell right away what woman will be always available for them, will meet up with them at the drop of a dime. I actually have an example from my dating situation with Sam when he really wanted to go hang out, go see the Christmas lights. And it was very last minute. And in my body, I just felt that I don't want this to become a thing. I don't want him to think that he can. Now, I'm all for spontaneous plans and this and that, but I just don't want things to fall into the pattern of last minute events or hangs. And it was hard for me. Again, I had to go against all of my previous experience, all of my previously engraved instincts. But in that moment, I very nicely shifted the conversation and I said, you know what, I can't make it tonight. I am working front desk. That was my job at the time. But how about this other day? And he aligned right away with that. And Sam said, oh yeah, you know what, maybe tonight's not the best night. We'll go another time. So you got to put your foot down and let them know that, hey, like, I'm worthy of having at least several hours to plan for something. I'm not a last minute girly. Whether you have terms and conditions indicates whether you have options. Almost immediately, when you start dating, you present yourself as either a doormat or a dream girl. What's a doormat? A doormat is someone who just allows other people to step all over them. She's there for the taking. Dream girl, she has standards. She comes with terms and conditions because she has a pool of suitors to choose from, and her standards are gonna land her in the best possible situation that she could be in. Now, if you smother him, he'll go into defense mode and look for an escape route to protect his freedom. So men and women are so interesting and such polar opposites, so it's so cool that we get to live this life and try to get to work together. But the most valuable, precious thing to a man is freedom. The most valuable and precious thing to a woman is security. Do you see how those are the same but different? So I feel that a relationship between a man and a woman is constantly trying to find that balance between freedom and security. And there's so many relationships that we know of that the man just literally dwindles down and loses his masculinity because of how much the woman that he's with smothers him and constantly has to know what he's doing and this and that and the other. And, people have trust issues for different reasons, but if you really want your relationship to blossom and you trust the person that you're with, you got to give them the freedom and they will appreciate you for it so much. And you can define for yourself what that looks like, if you need to check in with them every once in a while, but not like in a mother with a teenager sort of way, if that makes sense. So whenever a woman requires too many things from a man, he'll resent it. Let him give what he wants to give freely and then observe who he is in that process. So there's just so much on social media now that girls are like, I want this, 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 and that, and don't even take me out if you're not going to spend $1,000 on me. And honestly, good for them that they're that bold, but you want to see what the guy will do for you freely, just out of his own character and out of his own heart. Much more so than you want to demand, right? And eventually, I think as any person would, they'll start to feel used. They'll feel like, oh, this girl only wants to be with me because I bought her a bag or because I take her to these nice restaurants that she can post, The men really do feel that type of stuff, and more so now than ever, they're actually shy. Like the good, solid men of means are now moving away from those types of women that are just wanting to be flashy. So again, just allow him to be who he is, for him to give freely, and then just observe that. Some of the best relationship advice that I've ever heard is like, you literally as a woman don't have to do anything. Like if he wants to take you on a date, he'll ask you. All you have to do is say yes. If he wants to open the door for you, you don't have to ask for that. Just watch if he does it. If he wants to call you, you wait for that to happen. You don't do anything. You're not here to push the cart or whip the horse. That is not your job as a woman. As feminine energy requires us to do, we need to receive and just open ourselves up to reception and then just see, do we like it? Do we not like it? Do we want it? Do we not want it? So a goddess gives a man plenty of space so he doesn't fear being trapped in a cage. You know what this makes him do? He sets out to trap her in his. So as soon as the man feels that sense of freedom, it's kind of like, whoa, this is different. Usually the woman is like calling me all day and texting me all day, and it just feels like exacerbating. But my goodness, who is this girl that, she seems to have a life. She's not requiring too much of me. Oh, I gotta lock that down. Now, if you tell him you're not interested in jumping into a relationship with both feet, he will set out to try to change your mind. How often do you hear of it the other way around, where the guy is like, oh yeah, dude, I didn't really like her at first. I didn't think she was that cute, but eventually after months and years, she wore me down and I fell in love with her. That's just literally not how men work. If they want you from jump. And if they want you and you tell them, hey, I'm not willing to jump into the deep end with both feet. I just kind of want to take it slow. If he really wants you, he will do that with you. And it will be a very exciting and enticing challenge for him to win you over. And a man who feels like he's earned a relationship, trust me, will value it so much more than a guy who was beaten down into a relationship. What are we? Where are we headed? How do we define this? Like when I was dating Sam, I never asked him those questions until he literally took me and pulled me up on a hill and was like, will you be exclusively my girlfriend? Always give the appearance that he has plenty of space. It gets him to drop his guard too, because a man that is constantly being smothered, followed, texted, called, he's gonna have his guard up. He's not gonna drop his guard for you. But if you give him plenty of space, guess what? He's gonna open up to you a lot more. And, of course, more than anything else, he watches you to see if you'll be too emotionally dependent on him. Now, we all know women are the more emotional creatures, but it is a huge mistake to dump all of your emotions onto a man. They are not built for that. If you look at their relationships with each other, their relationships are not emotional. Their relationships are very physical. They like to push each other around. They like to compete. They like to wrestle. Men communicate physically and women communicate out of emotion. And that's why it's very, very, very important to have a solid group of female friends that you can have emotional exchanges with and work through your emotions, and more so with yourself too. There are very healthy ways to deal with your emotions, such as movement, getting a good sweat on, or journaling, dancing, moving your hips, meditating. Even a cup of tea just feels like an actual hug. So work through your emotions with yourself, with your girlfriends. So when you do come to hang out with your man, he will feel that you're not emotionally burdening him, and that way he'll open up to you more and have some fun with you. It will really feel light and easy and fun to be around you. Another thing is, he must feel that you choose to be with him, not that you need to be with him. Remember, need and want are two different vibes. Need is almost clingy, like I literally can't live without you. But want is like, hey, I have all of these options, but I want you and I choose you. Doesn't that feel so much better? Even think about it on the flip side. Would you want to be with a guy who needs you and needs you to co-sign for this and pay for that and help him split this, that, and the other? Or do you want a guy who could have anybody, but he really just wants you? Doesn't that feel so amazing? When he feels that you choose him, not that you need him, only then will he perceive you as an equal partner. If a man has to wait, this is a little controversial because I know with the age of feminism and stuff, there's a lot of emphasis on sexual freedom and, we don't want to slut shame anybody and this, that, and the other, and we don't. But I think every woman has this understanding in her heart that when the man has to wait before he sleeps with her, he'll not only perceive her as more beautiful, he'll also take his time to actually appreciate who she is. I always ask my girls, what's a man's main objective? A man's main objective is to sleep with you. That's why I don't believe in a grown-ass man wanting to be your friend purely out of, unless he's sexually not attracted to you, in which cases he would be gay. But any straight male, trust me, his objective is not to be friends with you. His objective is to sleep with you. We just have to keep that in mind, that as soon as they get their objective, why would they work for anything else? Like, truly, think about yourself. Once you reach your objective, are you still working? Are you done? Do you relax? So just something to think about. And another good example too is women often confuse sex for a spark. They're like, oh, but we slept together and we had a spark and it was great. But sex and a spark does not equate. You can definitely have a spark with somebody without being sexual with them and just really taking the time. Now, let's also define a really clear difference here. So before sex, a man is not thinking clearly, right? Because he hasn't met his objective yet, but a woman is thinking clearly. After sex, it reverses. The man is thinking clearly and the woman isn't. That's because women bond to men through having sex with them. You can put it whichever way you want, but the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, all of these hormonal chemical components that happen during sex do bond the woman to the man much stronger than it bonds him to her. Much, much stronger. So every man wants to have sex first, whether he wants a girlfriend or it's something that he thinks about later. But by not giving him what he wants up front, you become his girlfriend without him even realizing it. Why? Because now he's investing into the relationship. He's investing into you. He's investing into obtaining his objective. Now, a man intuitively senses whether sexuality comes from a place of security or from a place of neediness. I'm going to say that again. Guys can sense when your sexuality comes from a place of security or a sense of needing to be loved, needing to feel secure, needing to feel a belonging. And sex with the right person, somebody who loves you, takes care of you, is committed to you, does give you all of those things, just tops you right off. But the point here is that men really can sense it if you're just having sex with him to appease him, and that just lowers you in their eyes. Now, bad habits are much easier to form than good ones because good habits require conscious effort. They require discipline, requires patience. Waiting encourages this effort. So again, say what you want, but just waiting it out is really going to build some really good foundation for discipline in your relationship. If he makes you feel insecure, let that insecurity be the answer. He just doesn't like you that much, or he wants to put you down, he wants to come out on top, but he does not genuinely care about being your protector and your provider. So let that sense of insecurity speak for itself. A real guy who is a good man with a good heart will not be having you feel insecure. There's a lot of things that we feel insecure about on our own that is absolutely our job to work on as women, but just do your best not to project that into your relationship. Just know the difference, because if someone is causing you to feel insecure, they're not the guy for you. Let that be your guide. Anytime that guys see a woman as competing with another woman, number one, that makes them peacock out. They're just ooh, look at that. She's literally competing with another girl just because she wants me so hard. You're just demeaning yourself. There's just no reason to do it. Step above the competition. Just let your vibe be your vibe. Stand out on your own and never compete with another woman for a man. It's just literally never worth it. One thing that's really good to do is to let him think that he's in control. Obviously, as women, we are so powerful and our sexuality is so powerful. That's why I harp on this subject so much. It's not because I want everybody to wait until marriage, but just get something that you want out of it first before you literally lay your entire flower on the table for him and let him reach his objective before you even get what you want. We as women really have to tap back into the power that we all know we have, because it really makes the world go round. It does. And when you let him think he's in control, he'll automatically start doing things that you want done, because he'll always want to look like a king in your eyes. Men are literally dying for the approval of others. They can never say it because they're not allowed to be emotional and they're not allowed to have feelings, but they're constantly looking for approval from their buddies, approval from women. As long as you help him feel like he's the one leading, he's the one in control, you'll be a winner too. Now, when you cater to his ego in a soft way, he doesn't try to get power in an aggressive way. So there's a lot nowadays with women being very in their masculine power, really trying to control everything, trying to plan everything, trying to do all of these things that the man is supposed to do. That causes them to react aggressively to us, because competition is competition for men. If they're being met with the same masculine energy that they carry, all of a sudden it's a competition. But if they're met with the polar energy that they don't carry, right? This is a really masculine guy and he comes across a very feminine woman, that just pulls him in like nothing else. When you appear softer and more feminine, you appeal to his natural instinct to protect you. But when you appear more aggressive, you appeal to his instinct to compete. Very good thing to keep in mind. He'll let a woman who becomes his doormat pay for dinner on the first couple of dates, but he wouldn't ever think of her as his dream girl. A guy who thinks about a woman that is his dream girl, I don't think he envisions splitting bills with her. I think he literally sees himself as the type of guy who is capable of taking care of a girl that is his dream girl, the type of girl that he wishes to attain. Not the girl that he's hanging out with just because she will meet him at last minute, will let him sleep over, will split everything down the middle with him, will even pay for his excursions and his adventures and his experiences. Of course, they'll take it. Who wouldn't want that? But they're never going to value you as that objective, that woman that they're striving and working and competing to be able to have. If you give him a feeling of power, and women are very good at that, he will want to protect you and he'll want to give you the world, right? All men, like I said, are just looking for power, for approval, for a standing in society. And if you can make him feel that way in the privacy of your relationship, he will truly give you the world. That's just point blank. A lot of women, myself included too, in my earlier years of my 20s, we can be very independent, very masculine, very much like, I have to do this for myself. This is how it has to happen. This I plan my whole life. I can get it on my own. When you start acting like you can do everything on your own, you're going to get stuck doing everything on your own. So be a little bit more helpless. Be a little bit like, oh, I don't know how to put air in my tire. Which gas thing should I put in my car? I don't know if I should do premium. I don't know if that's a good one. But men love a helpless woman. They love being like the hero in a situation, coming to the rescue, being the ones to help her out and getting that big pat on the back and that feeling like they're a king and like they helped her out. So even if you do know how to do a lot of these masculine things, definitely allow more space for men to come help you. They live for it. They live to help and protect and provide for women. So we just have to give them more opportunities to do that rather than just jumping in and taking care of everything ourselves. And I can speak to this myself too, because in my earlier years of college before meeting Sam, I was of the mindset, and I absolutely blame feminist ideologies for this, but I was very much of the mindset that I needed to acquire a career to impress a man. How messed up is that? I was out here talking on dates about how I'm going to do this, and the other, and climb this corporate ladder and blah, blah, just such masculine energy. No wonder I was literally just attracting little boys who wanted to be taken care of, who needed a mommy in their life still. It was crazy. Again, to that point, just give them chances to help you out in ways that make them feel masculine, and that really, really does wonders for relationship. And in relationships too, not getting exasperated and being like, you can't do anything, I have to do this, I have to cover this, that, and the other. Just give them the chance to do that. Be like, hey babe, it would really help me out if you could do this, or, you know, your hands are so much bigger than mine, and I think they can handle this so much better, or you're so much taller, I think can you please reach this for me? What man doesn't love being asked when his woman asks him to open a tightly closed jar, right? Like they just love to like pop it open and just feel like their muscles went to use. You know, like they're so simple. We just have to throw them a bone once in a while. Another thing too is men don't respond to words. What they respond to is no contact, no action. Again, men are very physical, so it's either action or no action for them. Trust me, girl, when you're typing out that long-ass paragraph to him, telling him everything that he's doing wrong and how he pissed you off and how he needs to do this, that, and the other, he is not reading it. And we know it too, because they always choose the most irrelevant portion of the paragraph to respond to. And again, that's because men do not respond to words. Women and women respond to words. But men, it's either you're contacting them and that like continues to feed their ego and they can tell that they have a hold on you, right? That 100% hold on you, and that's it. The mental challenge is gone. But if you just remove yourself and you're like, not for me right now, that's the only way that they're going to get to respond. And another thing is talking about the relationship too much takes away the element of the unknown and thus the mystery. We can all agree that relationships are always the most fun, the most thrilling, the most exhilarating in that first honeymoon stage where you're like, I don't know, does he like me? He's like showing up in all these ways, but like nobody has really said it. And it's like literally the most exciting thing ever. But the moment that you spit out the words, what are we? Or what is this? Or where's this going? All of that excitement dissipates, especially for the guys. So do your very best, even if you're dying to know, just do your very best to maintain your boundaries for if the relationship has not yet been defined by the man, and it's always the man who's going to define the relationship, ladies. Always the man. But again, don't give too much until they say like, hey, I want to exclusively be with you. I don't want you dating anybody else. And a guy who truly and absolutely wants the woman for himself, it'll make him sick to think that she's going out with other guys or this or that. But also, if he doesn't really care about you like that, it's not going to matter to him. Men respect women who communicate in a succinct way because that's the way that men talk to each other. They're not going to be saying like microaggressive things with like backhanded compliments or things like that. Like I said, they just push each other around or like communicate through grunts. Like men are very, very simple. It's the women who we have complicated relationships and complicated communication and like, oh, like she looked at me weird or oh, she didn't invite me to this. Men cannot stand those types of things. And if you bring this up to a guy a lot of times, drama between you or other girls, number one, they're going to get sick of it. Number two, they literally don't notice the same undertones and tensions and microaggressions that we as women notice. So if you speak to them in a succinct, straight to the point, sometimes even a banter sort of way, they will respect that so much more because, again, that's how men communicate. A very important point that I want to make is most women are starving to receive something from a man that they need to give to themselves. Approval, validation, and belonging. The only person that needs to approve of you is yourself and whatever higher power you believe in. That's it. When you're caught in the ruts of trying to gain approval from a man or trying to get something from a man that is ultimately your responsibility to give yourself, especially a sense of inner security, well, you know how this goes. You can never find that in another person. And while romantic love can be beautiful and it can produce children and it can last years and years and years, it's still not as deep or everlasting as the love that you have with your own soul. So focus on that. When you choose to give yourselves the things that a lot of women are looking for in other men, you'll see the flood of not just guys, but also friends and amazing people that come into your life because you'll be more magnetic. Instead of being like this void that's just sucking in energy from all the other people because they don't have enough of their own energy, you'll become magnetic and pull the right people to you. Another thing is a woman looks way more secure in a man's eyes when he can't pull her away from her life because she's so content with her life. She has so many cool things going on, so many things she's a part of. She has amazing friends, amazing community, and he really can't pull her away from that. He has to then fuse into her life in order to be a part of it. And that also really up-levels you in their eyes, much more so than a girl that's just ready to drop everything on a dime to go and join him. And I see this so often, and it's really not your fault, ladies, but I see so much more of women moving to a different city to be with a guy or making strides, like changing her whole educational experience just to be with a certain guy who's like not even going to be with her after college, or just changing and uprooting everything about their own life, where it really needs to be the opposite, where as women, we need to be so grounded and rooted in our lives and so committed to our lives that a man has to be like, what do I need to do to become her number one priority? Like, how do I fit into this amazing life that she has? The second a woman works overtime to make herself fit his criteria and fit his life and fit his standards, she has already lowered the standard and the value of that relationship, because all of a sudden he looks at her and he's like, oh, she is literally jumping through hoops to be in my life. Maybe she's not that great. Maybe she doesn't have that much going on in her own life to make her interesting or make her occupied. So you guys, this is all very psychological, and it's for a reason that way, because men and women are meant to challenge each other. Why? A woman challenges a man to see if he is manly, masculine, and a provider enough to withstand the challenges of having a family. Because having a family is hard. You see people do it all the time, trying to do it single mothers, and honestly, props to them, because it is so hard to do it without a partner. But men and women biologically test each other. Women test men to see if they can withstand the challenges of being a father, and men test women too to see if she falls apart super easily or if she can really raise children and be able to deal with their attitudes and all of the gripes and complaints that come with that. And being a mom is really the hardest job in the world. So even subconsciously, men are constantly testing the women that they're dating to see if like, oh, can you take this or are you going to fall apart? you jump through hoops anytime that you repeatedly make it very obvious that you're giving it your all. Like you're giving him all your time, all your energy. Oh, you had plans with friends, but now he wants to hang out. So you drop the plans with friends. And again, that shows them that they have 100% hold on you, and the relationship starts getting less and less and less interesting. So you have to keep yourself from being sucked down into quicksand. Unless you maintain control of yourself, the relationship is doomed. And believe me, it is hard to do, but it is so worth it. It's so easy to just fall into how good it feels and how excited it's making you, but it's very easy to lose any sense of discipline in that moment. Remember, when you're dating, you're basically shopping for a life partner. And when you're shopping and you really want a really amazing thing of quality that lasts you a long time, that will be with you forever, that you're really investing in, and the creator of that thing invested in it too, right? We have to think about it that way. Is if you want a specific type of guy, you have to think about yourself too. Why would that type of guy want me, right? It's really important to maintain control of yourself and truly become the woman that is deserving of the type of man that she dreams of. A lot of women are out here requiring all sorts of things, but it's look at yourself. You haven't even put in the work to require and demand so much from a guy who is working hard, also has to prove his place in society, also is concerned with his reputation and public standing, and also is concerned with whether he's a provider or not. Because whether or not they admit it, men are so money hungry because society has convinced them that that's the only place where their value is found. So again, just think about okay, the type of man that I want, that I envision myself with, am I the type of woman that kind of guy would choose? And trust me, they're out there, and you can become that woman and really raise yourself to those goddess standards. Jumping through hoops often has a negative outcome. So he sees it as an opportunity to have his cake and eat it too. But when you stay just outside his reach, he'll stay on his best behavior, right? Because for a guy, what's the objective? Does he have you completely or not? Does he have you completely or not? And sometimes it terrifies them when they don't have you completely, and they'll throw out, certain tests where they'll require a lot from you, but just stand your ground, keep your requirements high and your standards even higher, and they'll either adapt or they will disappear. I think I'm going to have to make a part 2 because this episode is getting kind of long. So next week we will have a part 2 for the cuffing season tips. And I'm just going to end on this one last point. So the super nice doormat girl gives away way too much of herself when pleasing him regularly becomes more important than pleasing herself. That's when she becomes a doormat, when she's rushing over to take care of his stuff, to make him happy, to make his dinner, when he's not really doing much for her, and she's not even doing much to please her own life or her own self or continue to follow her ambitions or dreams. So just one thing to keep in mind, are you counting on this person always to please you, or are you always running over there and pleasing them, or are you still doing things that give you pleasure and that give you a sense of life and a sense of vitality? So yeah, girls, this was a pretty good girl talk episode. We will meet back next Monday, and I just want to thank you all for bearing with me as we're going through this transition and as I'm kind of recording by myself and getting some guests on, but I just wanted to thank you all for being here and for getting into this conversation, and can't wait to talk to you next week. Stellar Cycles out.